Hey everybody, it's Steven, and you guys have heard me talk about how monster and science fiction and horror films had a great impact on my life, most specifically my career choices. Today I want to kind of take you back in time to back when I was a kid and I was spending my time making Super 8 films. Now, back in those days, what we would be using, kids in those days actually, would be using something like this. This is a Bolex Super 8 camera. Believe it or not, these things were not as hard to get a hold of as you might think. A lot of kids' parents had an old regular 8 or Super 8 camera sitting in a closet that wasn't being used that we could grab and go out and start making films with. The reason for that is, of course, is that video cameras were still very large and very expensive, and film cameras weren't easy to use. They weren't point and shoot. You had to know something about exposure, photography. There was no autofocus. So a lot of people just ended up throwing them in the closet and never using them again, and their kids took them over and started making films. What you would do was take a camera something like this and then go to your local Kmart or your drugstore and buy a roll of Kodachrome film. Each one of these film cartridges held about 50 feet, which translated into about 4 minutes of screen time. You would load your camera up. The Super 8 film took a cartridge that fit right in here in this particular camera's case, and get your stuff, your actors, your tabletop stop motion together, and by golly, there you go. You're on your way. It still works. Then you would take your film back to Kmart or your local drugstore, send it out for processing, and in a few days you get something like this back, and this was your roll of film. And I look at this, I can't even believe it nowadays. I look at this, look how tiny the 8mm film is. I don't know how I was able to edit that stuff, but where there's a will, there's a way. So today I want to show you a film that I did, a stop motion film. This was when I was just starting to get the hang of stop motion and just starting to figure out all the techniques and actually doing something that you could actually watch. So I'm going to show you the film and provide you with this sort of DVD commentary on it, okay? Here we go, The Arctic Terror. Now I'm sure you guys can guess where the inspiration for this title crawl came from. Although I happen to misspell the word expedition on this. This thing is on a paper roll. I think the wind is kind of blowing it around. That's why it's not as steady as I'd like it to be. Here we have a model kit of the Seaview submarine from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea in a bathtub filled with styrofoam icebergs and dry ice. And there's our creature coming out of the water. This bathtub was actually in my backyard. We used it to wash our dogs, and then I later confiscated it to make films in, and I had a hole cut in the side so I could do shots like this. There's a piece of plastic over it and you could film underwater. Now here's our creature. This is from the old Mego line of toys. This is one of their Star Trek aliens called the Neptunian. It's completely made up. There was no Neptunian in the TV show, but it looked cool, and it was a model that I didn't have to build, so I just kind of went for it. This scene here is pretty funny. Our creature is crawling out of the water onto the bridge, and once I got him up there I realized I really didn't have a way to make him stand up, so he's just gonna crawl across the bridge. But he makes it to the city. And the city is a set built in my bedroom, a tabletop set. Most of the buildings are HO scale model railroad buildings, except for that one building off to the left. That's a building that I built out of cardboard and construction paper. The cars are Matchbox and Hot Wheels. Now what I was trying to do with this film was, I had been watching a lot of Ray Harryhausen movies at this point, and I was trying to do a creature that had a little bit of personality to him, something that made him seem almost a little bit human, and so that's what kind of this was an exercise in. You can see the telephone poles all have black thread on them all the way down the street. I threaded each one of those individually. Oh, down there by the Shell station you'll see a Hot Wheels Chevy Nomad driving off. Those things are pretty rare if you can find one these days. Now, part of the reason this film is so unsteady, so shaky, is it's not because I didn't have a tripod. What I didn't have was a single frame cable release. What I was doing was every time I had to take a single frame of film, I had to pull the camera trigger with my finger, and it usually jostled the camera a little bit. So my next thing that I bought was a cable release. Now here in true Godzilla movie fashion, the military is called out. And our hero, or villain as it were, is realizing that if he doesn't get out of town, he's going to be toast. One of the reasons I like to use these HO scale model railroad buildings is because you could get all these things like 7-Eleven and Kentucky Fried Chicken. To me it made it seem more real. Okay, here we have a very wobbly helicopter on wires. The reason it's wobbling so much is that one of the rotor blades flew off and made it unbalanced, and I wasn't patient enough to wait for the glue to dry to So it kept flying off, and I just wanted to film. So now the lighting has changed, and that's because that set is outside. And the reason it's outside is that most of my films that were made during this time period always had, there it goes, a very big explosion in it. And poor helicopter. But our World War II fighter plane is coming to the rescue, and he's coming straight on towards the creature, and whoops, another big explosion. But the creature's gone in true classic 1950s sci-fi style. And here's a little bit of a treat. This is the slate. That's my younger brother holding the slate from the Stars Hall of Fame, which was a wax museum in Florida. And there you can see my bedroom curtains, and there's just a little setup right there in my bedroom with photo floods. And here's a little test that I did with a creature I built from liquid latex and wire and cotton. I was just trying to fool around, see what I could make. And there you have it, the very crude beginnings of my motion picture career. And I actually made quite a few of these films. There's about 40 more that I did. I'm digitizing them all, so hopefully I'll get a chance to show you guys some more of them. But hey, if you're a filmmaker out there and you're putting your stuff up on places like YouTube, which, oh God, I wish I had YouTube back when I was a kid, just keep making films, because you never know where it's going to take you. So until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.